What's up YouTube, it's Chris, and I'm gonna apologize right away if I seem a bit low energy. I slept for only 2 hours and I feel like I could pass out at any point, but even so, there is one topic that I really wanted to address, discuss, and talk about, especially because I want to see what you guys think about it. Ever since I stumbled upon VHS, there's this one thing that I was asking myself: can this game end up in esports? And I really want to know because it's my dream to end up in esports myself. That doesn't necessarily mean as a player, because I can see myself in many different roles. Ever since I've been a part of League of Legends in season 2, I think, this game grew so much, and I absolutely love what they did regarding the competitive side of the game. It all started with one league, LCS, and they had a couple of bigger competitions divided by regions. They usually wouldn't cross over, but only a couple of years later that grew to continental size. You had North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and some of those places actually had to divide into even smaller regions because they had so many good teams and players who would further on qualify for the Worlds. This is the dream. If you become an esports organization, your ultimate goal is to host a Worlds competition, and that's exactly what happened with League of Legends. Now those continental competitions became organizations in themselves. You have LEC, LCS, LCK, and many more, who would all fight for dozens and dozens of matches with the other teams to qualify for the Worlds. And that's not even mentioning the training that goes into it. These are players who invest their whole lives into this game just to be able to win the World's Cup. If you commit so much time and effort into one game, I think you want a chance, an opportunity to participate in something so big. It's not all about winning, it's not all about getting to the first spot, even though that's a big part of it. It's about being a part of something. As I already said, I wanted to be in esports. In the beginning, that was League for me, but I kinda grew past that point and then wanted something else. I was never a part of the game since it came out, and this is actually before it came out. VHS is currently in beta, and I've been here through every step of the way. I've not only played the game, but through Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, I became part of this amazing community. And I know this is where I want to be, and I know that this is something that I want to be a part of for a longer period of time. So the question stands: can VHS even make it to esports? Can my dream come true? Based off everything that I just said, I know I'm gonna be a bit biased, but excuse me if I will. I just want to be hopeful. I will still try to give you solid examples as to why yes and why no. I think there are two crucial factors in game making it to esports. The first one being the game itself, how well developed it is. Is it balanced? Is it fun? Is it competitive? Because esports is all about competitiveness. And then the second important factor is the community itself. How well known the game is, because esports requires funding. That means it requires a lot of eyes on it. And if the game is small and the community is not too interested into something like that, obviously the game cannot make it into esports. So let me begin with the first one. Considering this will be the first 4v1 asymmetrical game ever in esports, it would definitely make for a challenge, but I do think it does have that something to make it into esports. Let's compare it real fast to Dead by Daylight, because we got nothing else. Dead by Daylight is the only successful game in 4v1 asymmetrical world so far, and they never actually made it to esports. But I think the reason is pretty simple. Out of all the things that I just mentioned, what makes the game viable for esports, Dead by Daylight doesn't really cross any of them other than the community. It does have a lot of eyes on it. But the game, I don't think it's competitive enough, in a sense that it's very repetitive. For survivors, if you can learn how to loop, that's basically going to be the only thing that you're going to be doing, because with the gens there is no complex mechanics or something you can really do to spice up your gameplay. There is a huge imbalance issue with Dead by Daylight, where only certain perks will work most of the time, and you will always see killers and survivors running 20 same perks over and over again. So that's gonna make for a huge issue. On the other hand, Dead by Daylight can be pretty fun to watch at times, but I think most of the times you will still not have that competitiveness behind it. Yes, people want to win the game, so they get fired up, but that's not the competitiveness I'm talking about. I'm talking about people being able to train for 10,000 hours and constantly progress and get better. But I think with DBD there is this plateau that you will hit, and that's it for you. With killers, it could potentially be different, because you have a lot of different killers and you can just get on a new one once you really master the one that you currently play. So there is definitely a lot of small issues and definitely a lot of small good reasons for it to end up in esports. But I just don't think it's an esports material game, especially because it's not really a type of game which you would usually see. In esports, I think the big factor is the balance between the two groups, between the two teams. And considering that Survivor's real objective is to do gens and get out, I don't think that makes the game esports viable. On the other hand, in VHS, it's kill or be killed. And this is something that makes the game much more dynamic as it is. It's much more unpredictable. The games can be turned around fairly easily. I would say the balance is not as big of an issue. The game is currently in beta, so obviously there's gonna be a couple of small balance shifts you'll have to do, but there's nothing really big of that sort currently happening in VHS. As I said, this is what you get with VHS. I feel like I'm playing a much more dynamic, sweaty game. Every second feels like it counts. In Debadilla, sometimes I can just literally stand in one place. Even when you're being chased, I don't feel like you feel that kind of pressure as you do in some other games when you're going in for the kill or whatnot. So yeah, VHS offers you a bigger variety. You have perks, which are more of a secondary weapon in your arsenal, if you can even call them that. As the primary weapon on the monster side, you have your powers. You have 3 different one on each monster, and each of those powers have 3 different mutations, which means you can use each power in 4 different ways. Gives you a lot of options, a lot of variety, a lot of different playstyles. With Teen side, you have 12 weapons, 3 in each stigma. You can either kill with stigma, or if it's finished, you can stun with it. Therefore, that also gives a bit more juice to the game itself. Not to talk about 5 different modifications for each weapon, which gives you 6 different playstyles with each weapon. Now, that's all technical stuff about the game. But when you play it, when you experience it, when you watch it, do you get that esports energy? Well, actually, I do. Honestly, I don't know when was the last time I've been so competitive and sweaty about a game. It could be just me, but whenever I play VHS, I don't feel like I'm necessarily getting the hang of it. The more I play, the more possible outcomes I can see in each game. And this is what makes a huge difference between VHS and Dead by Daylight. If I play as Survivor, okay, I have perks. We're gonna put all the technical stuff behind. We're inside of the game and then being chased by the killer. There is only so many options I can do here. I can either go to a pallet and try looping. I can either go to a window and try looping, or I can get slapped. These are my options. And with windows and pallets, they usually spawn in a certain way, so you can already technically learn all the layouts of the map and learn how to loop on each one of those. That's what I'm saying, it's repetitive. It definitely does take time to get to that point for it to become repetitive to you, but after a certain point, it will become repetitive. It's kind of similar for the killer side. They just need to learn how to play it from the other angle, you know, how to negate looping, and so forth and so forth. With VHS, I craft a weapon, and now I'm maybe like injured. I have 3 different stations around the map. I could lure the monster to one of them, or maybe actually heal, or lure him to one of the small rooms on the map, or one of the big ones, and try to like buy myself a bit of time if Ward's armor needs to run out. I need to do fucking mathematical equations at this point. It depends, like, do I have teammates next to me? Do they have a weapon? Are they all dead? Do I play this by myself? Can I try to find a pop can? If I do find a pop can, what is the good place to actually try to ambush him? Can he go through this door if I manage to lure him in? And is he gonna take enough damage for me to finish him off? My brain sometimes hurts from thinking about this stuff, because once I think I found a good spot this is gonna work, I do it a couple of times, and it seems like some other people also figure it out. Monsters get used to it. Boom, that goes underwater. It's gonna work every now and then, but now you need a better spot. And then the next day, you find a better spot. And I'm just gonna say, this is an illusion. There is no better or worse spot. Being unpredictable in this game is the best weapon you can possibly have. If you do find a really good spot where you can try to buy yourself a little bit of time so you can finish off the monster in whatever scenario you are, monsters can learn that as well, and they will just not let you finish them off. But if you pull off something really dumb that they would never expect, that usually works. It's so much about taking risks, putting yourself out there. There's no way around it. And the reason why I think all of this stuff is important for VHS to succeed in esports is because it has that element. No matter how good you become at using weapons and becoming a good teammate, and having a perfect communication, or if you play the monster side, how good you are at spotting teams, tracking them, or staying out of sight and positioning yourself. All of that stuff doesn't matter as long as you can't think on the spot. This is what esports is. It's about unpredictability of the game. In Dead by Daylight, if you have 2 teammates dead at 5 gens, or maybe everybody is on death hook, whatever, everybody's on death hook, everybody's injured, you have 5 gens left, the game is pretty much over. In VHS, nothing is ever decided. You can have your whole team in critical state, which means the next time you get down, you're dead. And you got no stigma. We won games like those. We turned it around, and these games happen more often than you think. It's just about unpredictability, about how good you are with yourself, with your team, and how good you are at improvising. There's only 5 teams and 3 monsters in the game. A very limited amount of perks, but as I said, you have a good amount of options when it comes to your powers as a monster or your weapons as a teen. The game didn't even release yet, so obviously there's not gonna be a ton of teens and ton of monsters and ton of options when it comes to that part of the game. Now, for the last thing that I've talked about is the community. Do I think VHS currently has a community for esports? Obviously not. It's not even released. How can you expect the game to have a huge community enough to be in esports if it's not even in early access yet? But do I think it has a possibility of accumulating such a big community? Yes, I do. Because the game is wonderful and it just takes time. Same as everything else. This game is starting from scratch, from zero, from nada. And I know it's going places. It just depends on how long it's gonna take for it to accumulate a good amount of eyes on it, for it to actually start being a real competitive game, and maybe one day end up in esports. Now, if I would have to say when is that gonna happen, at least probably a couple of years away. If there is a sudden huge hype around it once it releases, maybe we something small in esports 1 year from now, but I seriously doubt it. I do, however, believe that a couple of months after initial release that we're gonna be seeing a lot of small competitive organizations around VHS, like channels that are gonna try to make their own tournaments, or maybe small organizations that are gonna be making small professional tournaments. And that is usually where it starts. So if you see that kind of thing and it actually does well, I think we're gonna be on the right track. And what about you? Do you guys think VHS will end up in esports one day? Let me know down below. I really want to talk about this more. And yeah, if you guys liked what I do here and don't want to miss out on any future videos, I would highly appreciate if you smash the like button below, subscribed, and turned on the notification bell, because YouTube doesn't always recommend. All that said, wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. See ya.